Hey everyone, it's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ Stocks, Crypto Assets, and Interviews. It's Thursday, June 15th. Hope you're doing well. And in this video, going to be discussing RedWhite&Bloom acquiring distressed operator Aleafia Health. This is more mergers and acquisitions and consolidation in the space, which we've been expecting for quite some time now. So we'll discuss all that and more. Before we get to it, make sure to smash the like, help support me in the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, you'll be notified on any future videos. Closing in on 500,000 views on the channel, so very grateful and thankful for all of those that supported me along the way. Also did a video recently on Fire and Flower being granted creditor protection. So this is a trend that is emerging in the Canadian space. So it's not just Aleafia that's struggling financially, it's other companies as well. I did a video on High Tide and how they could be doing more mergers and acquisitions, and it could be potentially maybe even a stalking horse bid here with Fire and Flower. Maybe some SNDL or High Tide can step in and get some of those distressed assets from Fire and Flower on the cheap, and before they go to auction, sort of thing, just to maximize the value of the assets. And then I did a video as well on could Tilray potentially acquire VFF. We know that we're seeing a lot of consolidation in the space. There's over 1,000 LPs here in Canada, operators and producers, and this could be another potential merger coming down the pipeline, because we know Tilray said they're looking to get into fruits and veggies, and then VFF is also into that as well. So just some speculation there on my front. I don't know for sure, but just kind of putting two and two together there. But here's the MJ Biz Daily article. So RedWhite&Bloom to acquire distressed Canadian MJ operator Aleafia. So MJ multi-state operator, and this might be a trend that we see as well, where we may see some of the multi-state operators start to acquire some of the distressed assets, just like we're seeing here with Aleafia. And this could be, again, with over 1,000 LPs, there's nothing preventing them. We can't get companies in Canada. So if they're listed on the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange, they can't operate in the US, because in order to be listed on those major exchanges, you can't have any operations in the US. So it's okay for RedWhite&Bloom to do so, because they're not listed on the NYSE or the NASDAQ. So this trend could be something that we could continue to see as well. And then once federally permissible in the US and all of the reform and laws and regulations change there, we could potentially see Canadian operators become multi-state operators as well. And then it'll all be one and the same essentially. But multi-state operator RedWhite&Bloom Brands plans to acquire financially troubled Canadian MJ operator Aleafia Health in a share exchange agreement. And again, I'm expecting more and more companies in Canada to go insolvent or quote unquote bankrupt, because there's over 1,000 LPs, as I mentioned, and there's hundreds of millions of excise taxes that are unpaid to the federal government. So while the federal government is the biggest beneficiary of recreational legalization here in Canada, getting tons of tax revenue, they're now the biggest creditor as well, with hundreds of millions of dollars in unpaid federal excise taxes. So again, expecting this trend to continue with financially troubled Canadian operators here in the MJ space. The proposed deal comes less than 2 weeks after Aleafia announced it had launched a strategic review after breaching terms of a secured loan. That loan has been assigned to a Toronto-based RedWhite&Bloom RWB, according to a Wednesday news release. RWB will provide $17.5 million credit facility to Aleafia as part of the deal, and plans to sign a $30 million credit facility of its own. Under the proposed share exchange agreement, each Aleafia common share will be swapped for 0.35 RWB shares, giving RedWhite&Bloom shareholders roughly 76% of the combined company. The potential acquisition of Aleafia provides a well-established distribution beachhead for RWB and its premium platinum brand into the Canadian market. Opens up the larger U.S. market to Aleafia's select brands through RWB's distribution and retail channels, and provides both companies with the opportunity to mutually leverage their respective competencies, RWB Chief Financial Officer Eddie Matte said in a statement. Also, CFO of Aleafia, Matt Sales, said the deal would recapitalize Aleafia's balance sheet and provide our shareholders with access to larger market capitalization and exposure to U.S. recreational and medical MJ markets. The deal is subject to court, regulatory, stock exchange, and shareholder approval as per usual, and it's expected to close by the end of October of this year. Both companies are based in Ontario, RWB in Toronto and Aleafia in Vaughan. RWB operates in such U.S. markets as Arizona, California, Florida, Illinois, Massachusetts, and Michigan. Shares of Aleafia trade as AH on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and RWB shares trade as RWB on the Canadian Security Exchange and RWBYF on the US over the OTC, over the counter. And you can see here, RedWhite&Bloom Brands Inc. has a market capitalization of about $32.867 million, while Aleafia's is sitting at a mere $10.0 $1.079 million. And if we just take a look at the chart here for RWB on the CSE, you can see we're down over 97% from February 2021 highs, but from the all-time high down over 99%. So this is a very common looking chart for the MJ space here at the moment. As we know, pretty much all names in the US and Canada are down 80 to 90% plus from their February 2021 highs or their all-time highs. And again, we could see a little bit more pain ahead, because if we're seeing, fire and flower, we're seeing all this consolidation in the space, struggling operator Aleafia Health, and then with over 1,000 LPs, with hundreds of millions of unpaid federal excise taxes, I think we could see even more downside in the short to medium term here before we bottom out. But as we know, there's some big news pieces coming down and catalysts coming into the end of the year here. So I am expecting the type of seasonality that we're used to, where we see a potential summer lull, where activity drops off during the summer. Well, there hasn't really been any activity either. The S&P 500 today hitting a new 52-week high, and MJ just not participating. And what I'm expecting is, I'm not expecting a big move in MJ until crypto alts go into their alt season. And then once crypto enters a full-blown bear market, then I think MJ is potentially going to run next. And that's sort of a trend that we've seen in the past, because a lot of the same demographic does trade. But again, not seeing any major signs that we're getting out of this yet, but there was an article here from MJ Moment, where the feds aim to finish MJ scheduling review this year. Top Biden official tells MJ Moment. And then the MJ Act is under a consultation period here in Canada, where they're reviewing, packaging, labeling, distribution, marketing, taxation, all of that stuff. So we could see that into the fall as well. And then lots of progress on safe banking over the next couple of weeks as well, with a lot of people thinking that it could pass this time around. So we have three major catalysts, and those are the catalysts. One of those catalysts, I think, can definitely lift us out of this rut that we're in. But we dropped to a new monthly lower low here on RWB. 6 cents was the low there, and we hit 5.5 cents. So this could be an opportunity. I personally don't hold it. I'm not really 100% sold on it. I'll have to do a little. I don't really know much about the companies, either that one or Aleafia, to be honest with you, just to be completely transparent. But I'll probably be adding RWB to my list to look at a little bit more in depth going forward. Speaking of which, I'm going to add that right now to my watch list. But I'm familiar with them, just haven't been following them as much recently. But pretty messy looking chart here on the weekly time frame. We could see a golden cross though, with the 50-day moving average below the 200-day moving average. That could come at some point soon. If we just zoom here to the 1 year mark, we're not that far away. So 50-day moving average sitting at 0.438 cents, 0.438 cents, and then the 200-day there at 0.0694. So we could potentially see probably at least a couple of months. We still have to start the monthly bounce as well, dropping to a new all-time low and monthly lower low. We still need to start the monthly bounce, form a higher low and a higher high. So I would say we're at least 3 to 4 months out before we can be confident in a bottom. But like I said, this coupled with safe banking and the MJ Act being reviewed here in Canada is definitely some positive reinforcement here, and reassurance that we could see some massive upside into the fall. So like I said, not expecting much over the summer here. Could be another 3 or 4 months before we see any uptrends confirm on the monthly time frame, which we know we need to be confident that the bottom is in, and we could potentially start a new bull market and see an end to this brutal multi-year bear market that we've been in. Realistically, ever since the Canadian government legalized it here in Canada. We had that run up in February 2021 when the Dems took control of the Senate on hopes of U.S. legalization, but nothing really happened. So we'll see what happens into the end of the year. Could even potentially legalize medical in the U.S., which would be huge, but I am expecting some fireworks into the end of the year. But let me know what you think of this acquisition, the potential acquisition of Aleafia Health. Do you think it was a good move on their part on RedWhite&Bloom? Again, going to be doing a little bit more coverage on them and looking into them a little bit more in depth. But going into there, it's Rod with Power Group. Thanks again for joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care.